A couple weeks ago here at Columbine, we had a guest musician, Jim Scott, lead our worship service. Now, some of you may have noticed that it's pretty rare for me to come to church on my days off, but Jim Scott has a pretty stellar reputation, and I was curious. His name is plastered all over the teal and gray hymnals because he's written many beloved UU hymns that we sing all the time. He's UU famous. And I really liked meeting him over the phone, so I was curious, and I came to church. When I sat down over there in the back of the sanctuary and I looked at the order of service, I was surprised because it said, Jim Scott, Jim Scott, Jim Scott, Jim Scott, for all the pieces of the order of service, even the music. And I thought, how's this gonna go? Maybe I shouldn't have shown my face. This guy better be good if he's gonna hold a whole worship service all by himself, music and everything. But as some of you experienced, Jim Scott is no rookie. He told us that he's been leading UUs in song and worship for 40 years, and he's been a guest in over 700 UU congregations, and there's only just a little more than 1,000, so I'm impressed. So while Jim's service that he led went on for an hour and a half, I found him engaging and ironic and witty and deeply spiritual. Now, you may recall that his reflections centered on his state of awe when he considers the vastness of the universe. He shared his reflection that humans only know a small fraction of what's to know around us and inside us. And the little bit we know is mind-blowing enough. Jim reminded us how important it is to cultivate awe, to remember how small we are in the big scheme of things, and how wondrous and magical the natural world is. He reminded us that being curious and maintaining a willingness to be impressed and amazed is actually a spiritual practice, one that helps us keep our perspective and maybe even, possibly, a sense of humor. Jim Scott reminded me that one of the most profound and radical gifts of our UU faith is our acceptance of not knowing, of uncertainty. He reminded me of how countercultural we are in our acknowledgement and acceptance of the fact that we cannot comprehend the mysteries of life and death and the universe. Our human minds have a limited capacity to understand the vastness of all there is. We UUs are okay with not knowing all the answers. Not knowing is baked into our religious tradition. In fact, there are people who say that UU isn't a religion because we don't profess to know all the big answers. We don't believe there is one path to enlightenment or salvation, or that we need to agree on a creed in order to earn our way into heaven. Instead, we claim our freedom to be playful with our theology. We are free to cultivate a faithfulness that maintains that we're going to be okay, even if we don't know the objective truth, even though we don't solve all the problems and we aren't perfect. Now, I've been a UU for 20 years now, and the longer I practice this faith, the more I realize how profound it is that we allow ourselves to dwell in a liminal space. Our acceptance of the unknown is an invitation to stay grounded in awe and wonder. And what a profound paradox it is to stay grounded in acceptance of the unknown as a tool for helping us stay light and resilient. If we're willing to admit that we don't know the answers, there's less to be attached to. I think that's why Jim Scott's service touched me. It wasn't just what he said, it was his attitude towards things. His honest acknowledgement of the grim state of things was buoyed by his humor, by his gentle, or sometimes maybe not so gentle, satire of Unitarian Universalists and the state of the world. Jim Scott didn't come here to solve the climate crisis or to give us answers or even to admonish us for our part in perpetuating the problems. But instead, His reflections and observations were delivered with a spirit of levity and lightness. What a great trick to remind us of the urgency of the climate crisis, the injustice around us, to inspire us into action, and at the same time, to make us laugh. To acknowledge the heaviness and to stay humble and reverent to the mystery all around us. He reminded us to accept the world as it is with a sense of wonder and a sense of humor. Now, our way of being spiritual here isn't for everyone. It reminds me of a story I've told here before, but last week when I preached at All Souls, I wrote this sermon and told it again, so you're going to have to hear it again. I changed the name of the founding member of Columbine to Jane. Our dear Columbine friend Jane shares a story that reflects what it's like for people who come here to first get a sense of this radical religion. And it's a story here where we ask people to create our own theologies. And it's a story that reminds us how Unitarian Universalism can come off to other people. So several years ago, Jane brought a friend to church who seemed to really enjoy herself. The woman chatted with other people, asked questions, and really seemed to resonate with our UU values. Now, Jane was excited to have maybe brought a new recruit and afterwards asked her friend if she wanted to come again. And the friend said, "I love the service, the people are great, I agree with everything I heard, and no, I'm not coming again." Jane was surprised and asked her why not. And her friend said, "It's too much work. I don't want to have to figure things out for myself. I want to go to church for answers, not for more questions." Well, fair enough. I get it. Spiritual exploration isn't for everyone. Sitting with uncertainty isn't comfortable, and some folks prefer a creedal religion. Other people are happy to go to church but hold their own questions of their creedal religion. Not all people are intrigued and excited by the thought of their religion being a shared exploration or a conversation. After all, Unitarianism and Universalism have been around for centuries, and yet the Pew Research poll in 2007 estimated that only 0.3% of American adults identified as UU. There are less than 800,000 UUs in the world. And while I respect that many people want their religion to give them answers and are happy to depend on sacred texts or traditions or clergy for those answers, as UUs, we believe that reason and lived experience are essential parts of a healthy spiritual life. We articulate that in our 6 sources, and our administrator, Sarah, is working on getting our 6 sources and our 8 principles up on the wall so we can look at them, because they're actually really brilliant. Our 5th source is humanist teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason, the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. In other words, we agree to a healthy skepticism. We give our ministers and our speakers freedom of the pulpit because we know that it's an exploration, and we trust each other to discern what is the truth and what we believe. We trust each other to visit and revisit our ever-changing ideas and beliefs, both individually and as a whole. And to do this theological play, we have created a container. So despite what people may say about Unitarian Universalists, this is not a free-for-all. We create and recreate our theology and our best practice for living, grounded in shared values and held by covenants. The idea of theological play in Unitarian Universalism is why the poet Mary Oliver is often jokingly referred to as a UU saint. She articulated this concept so beautifully when she wrote, "Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, 'Look,' and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads." What a concise articulation of the essence of our faith, the culture that we are called to cultivate, and our UU theology. I'll just read it again. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads. Mary Oliver's poem is a great reminder not to lose our astonishment or our humor or our reverence for all that is, not to forget the miracle of life and the gifts that come when we slow down a bit. Sometimes we need our UU saints like Mary Oliver to remind us everything is holy now, even the stealthy little stoat maiming the chickens. Such beauty and cruelty in nature is a mystery, and our human minds cannot hold the fullness of the concept of each snowflake being unique as they fall by the millions. The vastness of the stars and the universe that we can study and we can learn about, but ultimately we cannot comprehend. Each of us has different names and experiences of that indescribable energy that connects us all. And the first source of our living tradition articulates direct experience of that transcendent mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. See, we do have a religion here. We do agree on something. We just don't choose to give it names. We name it each for ourselves. We have created a container for ourselves to guide our exploration and keep us grounded in reason while still open to direct experience. A theology where questions aren't whispered as contraband, but instead are central to our faith. Here's another story that you all have heard, but When I first met my husband, Jason, he'd been widowed about a year, and his 3-year-old, who's now a 10-year-old, was of course asking him, where did mommy go? Jason didn't know what to tell him about his mother who had died, and he felt like he had to give him some definitive answer. Now, I just met Jason, and he knew I was at the time studying social work, so he asked me, what do I say to him? And that was one of the moments, this is before seminary, that I was like, I am a Unitarian Universalist. This faith supports me in saying confidently to Jason, tell him we don't know. Some people believe she's in heaven, some believe she's an angel, but no one really knows for sure. What do you think, Kyle? Kyle was then and is still completely accepting of that answer. To this day, we still speculate on where Angel Mommy is without an expectation of figuring it out in this lifetime. And for some reason, that's radical in our culture. It's perceived as a weakness to say you don't know. But I would challenge that. I see the ability to accept and sit with mystery and the unknown as a strength. What a gift it is to draw from the 6 sources of our faith, knowing that the 6 sources are incomplete and they are evolving. There's nothing sacred about our 6 sources. They were decided democratically by human beings. Instead, it is the practice of engaging them, our theological play grounded in shared values, and hopefully humor and lightness and hope that we get from our spiritual sojourning. That is what is sacred and holy. As UUs, we join modern and ancient cultures all over the world this time of year to stoke the embers of our wonder and awe. The winter solstice, this is a great time. It's the darkest time of the year. It's when ancient people began the practice of celebrating the cycles of life and death, anticipating the return of the sun and keeping faith that the sun will return again. We're joined with people all over the world who celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, Dongzi, Yalda, Shalako, Toji, Yule, Saturnalia, Soyal, Inti Raymi, and St. Lucia's Day. And of course, that's not a comprehensive list. But this time of year, both ancient and modern people cling to our rituals of faith and hope. And ideally, we take some time to slow down and allow ourselves the space of awe and wonder. We take the opportunity this time of year to allow rituals to give us comfort and reassure us that the light and the warmth will come again. Because for all the ways that our modern culture has left behind old traditions and practices, we know in our bones that we need these celebrations and our time with others to carry us through the darkest time of the year. Sometimes we are misguided in our attempts to create and foster awe and wonder, and we turn to shopping and gift giving instead of slowing down and noticing what's before us and around us and within us, and the gift of our human community that's all there if only we stop and look. Slowing down is sometimes what we really need, even though sometimes we'd rather buy stuff. But ultimately, we all know that the thrills are short-lived, and we tend to end up filling the landfills in our attempts to create joy, but it's just because we want to feel happy and connected. We're yearning for that sense of wonder that we felt as children. And sometimes we try really hard to recreate it, forgetting it's all right here. If only we remember to appreciate the vast and mysterious wonder of the natural world and of our lives. Each year in December, we have another opportunity to pause and remember the sources of our faith, an opportunity to cultivate true wonder and awe. This season offers us a chance to be mindful of how you are called to use the holiday season. It's a time to consider how each of us contributes to shaping the culture of our denomination and the culture of the world around us. We get to choose our focus. We get to mindfully grow our worldview and our religious community as we lean into mystery and wonder as sources of our faith. As humans, we were born with a yearning for those indescribable moments of mystery and awe at things that are larger than us. Curiosity, yearning to connect with something, and that helps us relax into things we can't control. It's an invitation to keep engaging, to keep asking questions, and to keep a sense of humor. In the words of St. Mary Oliver, it is an invitation to say, look, and laugh, and bow our heads in astonishment. Blessed be, and may it be so.